Goddess, O goddess, save me from what the world demands. Save me from righteous men. Save me from thinkers. Save me from summoners. Save me from midnight kings and the devil himself. O goddess, save me. Save me from what we're about to do. Hey guys, Professor Bell, Comic Book University, and right now we're going to be talking about New Avengers, Volume 3, Issue number 1. Now, there's a whole series. This goes about, 33 issues, something like that, plus there's an annual thrown in there someplace. Whew, there's a lot. And on top of that, we got a little bit talk about what came before it, just in many ways. Okay, so just try and follow along. Anyway, this is where we first start to really learn about the incursions and all the crazy stuff that's going on in the world that will eventually lead to the Secret Wars, that will eventually lead to the rebirth, so to speak, of the new Earth, the new universe. Okay, so, wow, this is a lot, but we're just going to be doing this first issue. So we're going to start off with a previous, not necessarily first meeting of, but basically the first meeting of the Illuminati, where they all get together. You're talking about Iron Man trying to get everybody together. He gets together Namor. He gets together T'Challa, the Black Panther. He gets together Doctor Strange, Professor X. He gets together Black Bolt, the Inhumans. So he's going to gather all these guys together. Oh, and let's not forget Mr. Fantastic, the Reed Richards. All right. So he gets them together and he's like, hey, we need to start some stuff up, blah, 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 whatever. You kind of know the gist, I imagine. And I will get to that story eventually. But for now, T'Challa is the only one to completely reject it. I know. It's like Namor's the one who put up the biggest fuss, but that's just Namor. So T'Challa himself, he's like, listen, get up like I'm doing. Walk away from the table. All right? Because this is going to change you guys. You can't trust anybody. This is all done in secret, and this is just really bad. So, trust me, before you change, get up and walk away. And T'Challa himself walks away. The problem is he doesn't maintain his advice. It's all right. We'll see. So, this is done by Jonathan Hickman on writing. And so all of this, for the most part, all of the incursions, everything, this is pretty much his brainchild. All right, he was writing Fantastic Four around this time. We're going to explore very briefly in fact, let's just get to it right now. The Fantastic Four issue number 608. And this is where he's able to, this is where he eventually becomes the King of the Dead, all right, of the necropolis of Wakanda. Shuri is the leader, the chieftain, and she's the Black Panther at the time. T'Challa is just this dude. All right? So they're going to go down and they're going to separate. Shuri goes off to fight Bast with the Invisible Woman and with Storm, and T'Challa goes down with Reed Richards, and he's going to try and meet up with Bast and figure out, what do I have to do? What do I have to do to actually be able to help my people? I'm willing to sacrifice myself. You tell me, and I'll do it. Bast eventually says, okay, listen, you'll be the leader of the necropolis, and you will be the Black Panther again. Okay? And this is where he got to see all of the Black Panthers that came before him, and they enter him, and he gets to feel them forever and kind of draw upon their wisdom from this point on. So Shuri is still in charge. She's still the leader of Wakanda, but he's the leader of the dead, so to speak. He's the keeper of the dead, and he is now the Black Panther again. So cool. Good little trade-off. Anyway, there's also where Anubis dies, and and Reed Richards gets inexorably tied to Bast, and this comes up later on again in the Secret Wars. Very much more specifically, what's his name? I was going to say something very specific. I can't remember what it is now. I'll get to it. But, T'Challa finds out about what's going to happen now. Now, a lot of people have said, oh no, this refers to the Phoenix Five. No, they said, fire and floods that will destroy the world and many worlds and all that stuff. So I understand some people saying that, oh, this must refer to the Phoenix Five because that's when Namor came over as one of the inheritors of the Phoenix Force, 1/5 of it, and he goes and he takes out Wakanda. No, no, just because you heard floods in there, that's not right. That's not right at all. It's referring to the Incursions. All right, just think about think about what's actually happening here. All these worlds being destroyed. This is what she was foretelling, and this was literally issue number 608 happened 6 months prior to when this happened. All right, so let's get into this really quick. The writer is Jonathan Hickman. Steve Epting is the penciler. There's 2 inkers. One is Steve Epting. The other is Rick Maguire. The colorer is Frank D'Armata. And this is where we start getting into the VC. I gotta find out about this VC more often. VC's Joe Caramunga is the letterer. And Jacques is doing the cover art. There's variant cover artists and whatnot, and yeah. But Jacques does the cover art for the major one. And huge fan of Jacques. So anyway, these guys all get together. And we see that very famous line from Reed Richards where he had just got finished talking to a captured Black Swan. And he's like, okay, I've seen the future, I've seen death, and I know we're all going to die, and I accept it. You know what I'm saying? I accept that we're all going to die. Here's the thing. We've got to move on. we it's just not now. So this is just a kind of a prelude, because it then skips to, 26 hours in the past. So 26 hours ago from that particular moment, that's when you see the makers. Okay, these are 3 of the many youngsters who are supposed to be the future of Wakanda, the future scientists and explorers and all that good stuff. And here it's kind of indicated that the rest of the world was ahead of Wakanda in the space race. No, this is simply not paying attention to how the stories were actually told before. The Wakandans had actually gone into space long before the rest of the world, the Russians and then the Americans and the Chinese, which are still doing all this stuff. But anyway, so here it kind of indicates that no, that's not quite the case. But Wakanda is going to surpass them. Just point of contention right there. So anyway, these 3 come out, and really quickly their names: Nkono, Kimono, and Todori. That's the name of these 3. And they come out of they're coming through this path in the woods, and they just got finished dealing with a bunch of things. They just solved the golden paradox. They just found the lost tribe. They decoded the structure of the artificial man, and now here's the prize. And they're reminding each other, no, this is not the prize. This is the finish line. We still have to figure out this thing. Somebody else would come out of nowhere and be like, ah, we found it. And then, boom, they beat us, even though we're right here at the finish line. You never know. So don't just fall asleep. Well, Takono, he comes up with the idea, because he's sitting there reading. They're all, pretty much reading this stuff. And what do you call it? He's realizing, he's like, okay, this is saying that our history is hidden within here, and it's passed on through blood. It's like, blood. So he goes and he cuts himself, takes off one of his gloves, and he cuts himself and lets the blood pour on this little mini monolith, and all of a sudden the whole thing lights up. And he's like, one of the other guys, Kimo, he's like, hey man, check it out. It's our solar system. And Todori, she says, no, that's not our solar system. Can't you count? It's 12 planets there. So says, it's not our solar system. And in the background, they hear, but it is where you are headed. So they all kneel, and they're like, oh, my king. Well, he comes out, and he's like, no, this is not the necropolis, child. I am not the king here. All right, I'm the king of the dead. I'm not the king of Wakanda, proper. So basically what's happening here is that you have won, okay? You 3 makers, you are the future of Wakanda. And your prize, you've just solved this final riddle, your prize is the stars themselves. this is where you're going. You guys are going to figure out how to take us to this M-class planet out here that's got, all these blah, blah, blah resources and everything. And that's where they're going about the space race, how they're going to surpass everybody else. They've already surpassed everybody else. Wakanda's, I'm still looking for a citizenship to Wakanda, Marvel. Pay attention. Anyway, so they're all like pretty shocked. And then one of them actually notices like, hey, man, does anybody notice these little microtransactions? Oh, wait, no, microaggressions. No, wait. Says, do you notice these little micro tremors? Yeah, the least troublesome of the three. So some little rhino comes out of a little space-time hole. It's like, what's going on here? Comes out and just charges and runs right past him and gets out of town. So they're just like, what's going on? So Black Panther goes over and he realizes that this is the edge of some kind of a hyperspace wall. So he realizes he can go through it, and he turns around to the others and says, stay here. Now, obviously he's not their king, so they don't listen to him. So he goes through, and everything seems to change. Everything kind of turns to a major blood red tint across Wakanda. He's still in Wakanda. It's just a slightly different, altered space Wakanda. So now, the other three come up behind him, and so he's able to monologue aloud. He's like, what the heck is going on here? And there's this gigantic planet up ahead. Turns out it's the Earth, but it's tinged in blood red. It's really bad. And all of a sudden, these people come down from this other Earth. And this is the first appearance of Black Swan. Excuse me. So Black Swan comes down with these other knuckleheads and the manifold of that particular Earth, and they're all speaking High Sumerian. One of the makers says, are they speaking Akkadian? It's like, no, it's much more. Black Panther, I don't think he's actually got a device on him. He may have a device on him that will translate languages, much like Reed Richards' Universal Translator, but he is able to pick this stuff up a whole lot faster than a universal translator would be able to, which means he's probably memorized this language, this High Sumerian language, which that's in character. That's totally 100% in character for him. So that's what these people are speaking. And what do you call it? She, the Black Swan, she realized that they're speaking English. So she says, oh, this is one of those Earths. It's like, excuse me? So, yeah, she's been going around destroying a couple of Earths, it seems. Anyway, she says at one point, tell me, if I came to you, if I told you I came here to kill a world, would you try to stop me? Black Panther, he, bears those claws. He's like, oh, I would do more than try to stop you. Well, if those three kids weren't with him, it probably would have been a lot better for him. But she turns around to them and it's like, open fire. So they have these powerful weapons, unbelievably powerful weapons that they fire at him. When he puts up a shield, blasts right through the shield. But he's smarter than the average panther. Well, at least smarter than the average bear. And he knows you don't just put up a shield and stand there and look at somebody. And that's like a Batman type of technique, right? It's like, I got these totally awesome windows on my Batmobile. I'm just going to keep on driving. Oh, you're going to start shooting at me. I'm not even going to blink. Batman's got that level of cool. Black Panther has a completely different level of cool. So they blast and he puts up a shield and dodges. And it's a good thing that he did, because these blasts go right through his shield, kill two of the kids instantly, like reduce them to ashen bones. So to Takomo, and Takomo's interesting because earlier T'Challa actually went and put his hand on Takomo and says, I'm proud of all you guys. You guys are all really good. You makers are really good. But you, very specifically, your father's father, he says, so your grandfather, he was a Black Panther. And he was called the Wall, and he's looking down on you right now. Let me see here. That particular Black Panther was called... Oh, come on. What the heck was that guy's name? Sorry, it's kind of important-ish. His name was... They're not going to say, are they? This is what I get for not just writing this stuff down. No, it's Takonda. There we go. So his name was Takonda. So... anyway, he winds up getting shot also Because anyway, he's got these energy blasts that come out of either his hands or his gloves. We're not entirely sure right now, but he blasts these guys, and he's just boom. I don't know if he kills anybody. He's able to at least take down one of these guys, but it's not enough. One of the guys comes around behind, sniper sights, and takes the dude out. Doesn't take out the Panther. He doesn't realize that he's the much greater threat. He just sees this guy killed one of the guys with a very powerful, kapow blast. So anyway, he gets killed. And what does he say? He gets sliced also or he's about to get sliced by an energy katana. So like these guys are not playing around. Anyway, when he gets teleported away, the he's dying. He's got the tears running down his eyes. He's like, my lord, I see the stars. And it's kind of sad because he was supposed to go to the stars, right? He was supposed to be an astronaut, cosmonaut, Wakandonaut, whatever you're going to call them, right? Everybody's got different names for him in each different country. So anyway, Black Panther's like, dude, oh no, you did not. So he's getting ready to go back and kill all these guys, except that Black Swan kills their manifold first. So Black Panther, he's doing his teleporting thing, he's doing his camouflage thing, he's doing his stealth thing, he's ripping through these guys like nobody's business, and he finally gets to her, the Black Swan, and just as she goes and pushes the button on her device to blow up that Earth blows up, and that bracka-boom thing, his punch knocking her out is kind of covered by that other Earth being destroyed. So yeah, ain't nobody playing around with that. So he's looking up, and everything changes. That incursion field that was kind of around this area is gone now. So he's kind of automatically back in regular time-space Wakanda. Anyway, so anyway, at this point, this is where that prayer that I gave in the very beginning happens. And he's in the necropolis, and he's saying, save me from righteous men. And we see an image of Tony Stark. God, this is beautiful writing, beautiful art, excellent symmetry between these two, Epting and Hickman. And he says, save me from thinkers. And it's his friend, probably one of his best friends, Reed Richards, that they're showing. Just because somebody's your friend doesn't mean you don't know their faults, And he says, save me from the summoners. And there's Doctor Strange. Save me from the Midnight Kings. And, well, that should be obvious. It's the Midnight King. It's Black Bolt. And he brought Lockjaw with him, which is cute. And save me from the devil himself. And past the Dora Milaje, who are looking at T'Challa like, are you kidding me? We're letting this guy in here? It's Namor. Yeah. Oof. Yeah, after all the nonsense that Namor has pulled, after all that garbage, like attacking the nation, everything. Yep. They're not very cool with it. So anyway, that's when he says, oh, God, save me. And that's when the Illuminati come in. But I want to mention something because I'm a huge Captain America fan. Captain America is amongst them, and he doesn't have a prayer against Captain America. Does that turn out to work against him? No, actually, his lack of faith in Captain America, trust in Captain America, may be one of the things that causes further problems. Now, that's the end of this comic book, so I'm actually going to drop this. Now, most of us know in general what happens with the Incursions. I will one day get into a story about the Incursions themselves to give you a better gist of what's happening with them. What has happened with them in the past. They're all in the past now. I don't think we're ever going to see Incursions again because that was a ridiculously long storyline. That was so crazy how expansive that was and how long it took to get to everything. But it was still an amazing storyline. Whoa. Nobody tells a story like Hickman. All praises, brother. But the idea is that, and my synopsis on this, is that Captain America had the most right idea. Excuse me. I know that a lot of people are going to suggest that, oh, no. They had to do what they had to do. And he's saying take blowing up the planet off the table. And they were saying we got to keep every idea on the table. But think about what Captain America said. He said, that is only going to lead to, he's basically saying that's a slippery slope. Now, I'm not a huge fan of slippery slopes, but gateway plans do happen, just like gateway drugs. So he says, if you leave that on the table, that's going to be the idea that you're thinking of the entire time. And it was. It really was. Once the Infinity Gauntlet thing wound up not working, whether that was Captain America's fault or not, they're the ones who are like, oh no, you've got the willpower. You should do this. You should, be the one to do all this stuff and everything. Almost everybody else there had prior experience using the Infinity Gauntlet. So kind of, he didn't want to do it. He didn't want that responsibility on himself, but he took it when they said, you do it because you got the most willpower out of all of us. Anyhow, so what winds up happening is all of them are like, we've got to keep this on the table, including T'Challa himself. Now, T'Challa does kill. He doesn't have a problem with killing. The same can be said for Namor. In fact, Namor takes a little bit too much glee in killing. So T'Challa really took, I guess, being the king of the dead kind of changed him a little bit in this regard. He did not make the right decision. And again, that's just my opinion. If they would have kept going, if they would have kept on, maybe try and found a way instead to, like all these detectors and things like that and ways to, let's just recreate the devices that she did so we can kill all these other worlds, which is eventually wound up happening and selling their soul. All of them, every single one of them sold their souls, man. Every one of them. Captain America is the only one who came out of there untainted. And instead, they wound up betraying him and erasing his memory and all that stuff. So we don't know what would have happened otherwise. We don't know. What ifs and all that stuff aside, we don't know. But it could be suggested that with that off of the table, with the idea of killing all of these other worlds off the table, which they all eventually came to anyway because it bore too heavy on them, what wound up happening? They wound up finding other ways for it to work, right? So Cap wasn't necessarily wrong. And he will, of course, find out about all this stuff in the original Sin. He'll come back and be like, hey, what'd you guys do to me? So, how dare you? But he was also smart about it. He had to finish his mission, I remember when Nick Fury goes and says to him, hey, didn't you find out something? Like, Thor ran off to go for, he found out he's got a sister, and what do you call it? Hulk went after Tony Stark and all this stuff, and everybody went off to do their own things. Didn't you see anything? He's like, oh yeah, I saw something, but that's not on the mission table. That's not on my plate right now. That's not part of the mission. So he was the only one who stayed on target. I'm telling you, this is kind of like a Black Panther story, but I always wind up coming back. Like, if I had to choose between Black Panther and Captain America, Secret Empire aside, I always just got to give that little tiny bit extra to Captain America. Agree or disagree, but that's the way I see things. Anyway, this was a fantastic opening issue. There was so much history in here. It utilized past comic books. There was a story being told in the first place. You didn't actually have to read issue number 608 of Fantastic Four in order to know the things that happened here, but, would have helped. So that was actually a very big deal at that particular time in Marvel. The idea that they were always telling stories all over the place. So if you only read one or two comics, you probably weren't going to get the whole story of any of them because they were told all over the place. And unfortunately, this was also around the same time that Marvel decided to stop doing those little yellow text boxes that said, hey, to find out more about that, go and check out this issue in this comic book. That was the worst decision, in my opinion, that Marvel ever did, was to stop doing those text boxes. Fortunately, 2018 now, they seem to have started doing it again. Thank you. Thank you very much. Anyway, this is just going to go on forever. So, I'm going to leave it at that, guys. Hope you enjoyed this. Professor Bell Comic Book University. Oh, the links below to find this comic book in trade paperback form. Amazon and Kindle. All right, guys. Professor Bell Comic Book University. Class dismissed.